You are watching Shalom World News. I'm David Kerr from Lansing in Michigan, and these are your latest news headlines from around the world. Israel has carried out an aerial bombardment of the southern Gaza Strip. A spokesman for the Hamas-run health ministry says at least 67 Palestinians were killed in the strikes in the border city of Rafah, which took place overnight Sunday into Monday. At present, there are 1.5 million Palestinians sheltering in the city. Israel's military says it rescued 2 hostages in its accompanying hostage raid in the city. 70-year-old Louis Har and 60-year-old Fernando Simon Marman were being held on the second floor of a building in the middle of Rafah. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has welcomed the return of the 2 men, who have both been taken to hospital in central Israel, where they are said to be in good condition. Israel launched its operation in Gaza after more than 1,200 people were killed on October the 7th by Hamas, who also took 253 people hostage. The territory's Hamas-run health ministry in Gaza say that more than 28,000 Palestinians have been killed since, with more than 67,000 others injured. Pope Francis has offered prayers for those who are unable to receive medical treatment in the world, especially in war-torn nations such as Myanmar, Ukraine and the Holy Land. The Holy Father offered his prayers during his Sunday Angelus on February the 11th, which is the Church's World Day for the Sick. The Pope stressed the importance of relationships in illness, saying that the first thing one needs in sickness is the closeness of loved ones. The World Day of the Sick was instituted in 1992 by Pope St. John Paul II. It is celebrated each year upon February the 11th, the Feast of Our Lady of Lourdes. It is intended as a day of prayer and sharing, of offering one's suffering for the good of the Church, and of reminding everyone to see in his sick brother or sister the face of Christ. The Republican Senator Ted Cruz is demanding that the remains of 5 late-term aborted babies in Washington, D.C. not be discarded before an autopsy is done to determine whether federal law was violated by the abortionist responsible for their deaths. The pro-life group Progressive Anti-Abortion Uprising originally obtained the remains of the aborted babies in March 2022. The group say it acquired them from the Washington Surgery Clinic, which is run by Dr. Cesare Santangelo, an OBGYN who is a well-known abortionist in the city. Senator Cruz is now calling for an investigation and an autopsy to determine if the babies were killed in violation of federal law, specifically the Partial Birth Abortion Ban Act of 2003 and the Born Alive Infants Protection Act, which both protect children from abortion after birth. The US Conference of Catholic Bishops is urging the US Congress to pass a new human trafficking prevention bill that includes measures to fund humanitarian organisations in regions of the world where the crime is rife. The Frederick Douglass Trafficking Victims Prevention and Protection Reauthorization Act is sponsored by the Republican Congressman Chris Smith of New Jersey. It aims to extend several anti-trafficking laws, which expired 3 years ago, through to 2028. It would also allocate $241 million annually to help survivors of human trafficking with scholarship, skills, training and education. The European Parliament has passed a motion condemning the Christmas Eve massacre of Christians in Nigeria last year. During the 2023 Christmas season, Islamist Fulani militants killed at least 195 Christians in over 20 communities in Nigeria's Central Plateau state. The attacks also resulted in more than 300 injuries, the destruction of homes, the burning of 8 churches, and the displacement of 15,000 people. Campaigners for the rights of Christians in Nigeria have given the EU Parliament's resolution a mixed reaction. The pro-religious liberty group Alliance Defending Freedom say they're disappointed that the motion proposed climate change as a root cause for the massacre rather than Islamic extremism. Meanwhile, in the nearby African state of Burkina Faso, more than 340 Christians are receiving emergency food supplies from the Catholic charity Aid to the Church in Need after attacks by local Islamist terrorists in the northwest of the country forced them to flee their homes. The attacks followed the murder of 2 children who had defied the demands of the terrorists not to attend school. In response, the Islamic group gave the local Christian population 72 hours to leave the area. It's estimated that jihadist organisations have now taken control of 40% of the country's land, leaving over 2 million people displaced. The president of Hungary has resigned amid protests over her decision to pardon a man who had been convicted of hiding child sexual abuse in state-run children's homes. President Katalin Novak announced her decision on Saturday in a televised address to the nation, saying, quote, "I made a mistake." President Novak is a close ally of the Hungarian Prime Minister, Viktor Orban. A Calvinist Protestant, she has an international reputation for championing pro-life and pro-family causes since her election to the presidency 2 years ago. A 46-year-old mother of three, Katalin Novak was the first female president in Hungarian history and the youngest person to ever hold the office. The President of Indonesia has declared that the name Jesus Christ is to be officially used in connection with Christian holy days rather than Isa al-Masih, which is the Islamic name for Jesus. The decision by President Joko Widodo has been welcomed by Christian groups across the Asian country. In Orthodox Islam, Isa al-Masih is believed to be a prophet, second only in rank to Muhammad, but not the Son of God. Indonesia goes to the polls this week to elect a new head of state, with President Widodo standing down after having served the maximum 2 terms in office. The annual pro-life campaign 40 Days for Life will get underway this week upon Ash Wednesday. 40 Days for Life aims to end abortion through prayer, fasting and peaceful protest outside of abortion facilities. Since its foundation 17 years ago, the organisation claims to have saved over 24,000 lives and closed 148 abortion clinics. The pro-life campaign now extends to over 600 locations across the world. A new documentary charting the history and impact of Our Lady of Guadalupe will open in cinemas across the Americas later this month. Entitled Guadalupe, Mother of Humanity, the 102-minute film is directed by the Spanish filmmaker Pablo Moreno. The film is inspired by the true story of St. Juan Diego, who witnessed the apparition of the Blessed Virgin Mary in Guadalupe in Mexico back in 1531. Finally, a Catholic parish in northern Michigan has once again erected an outdoor chapel made of ice in honour of Our Lady of the Snows. The chapel's been hand-built by students from Michigan Technological University in Houghton for the city's parish of St. Albert the Great. The ice chapel has been an annual fixture of parish life since 2016. Last year, more than 700 people attended Holy Mass in the chapel, which includes an ice altar, stained iced windows and a snow confessional. Well, that's your latest headlines for now. Do join us for more tomorrow. You can also join us at swnews.org for news updates. Shalom.